This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I try to make mediocre matter one good setup at a time. This is the Rossignol Revenant. I compared it against the Rossignol 1LF and the Resurgence. Also rode it against the Juggernaut and the Jibsaw, and compared it against some other all-mountain peers, the Jones Mountain Twin and the Yes Basic Unink. I rode this primarily with Burton Kendos and Union Atlas. I had just about every kind of condition you want except powder. I had hard snow to pretty good, soft, and fun turning groomers. To give you a short summary of the three boards, this felt the most like a true twin and doesn't really match up with the surfy description they gave it. It works really well as a mountain freestyle twin that you can set back a little bit. If you want more directional float, you want to look at the 1LF and the Resurgence versus this Revenant here. But it has a very cool feel underfoot. The only thing I wish is it had a little more camber so it would match up a little better to boards like the Jibsaw and the Juggernaut that are more of their mountain freestyle boards. When it comes to sizing, this 58 felt great. It was the right size for me. It felt like it matched up really well with my size 9 boots, and it handled my 190 to 195 pounds really well. When it comes to shape, you can see it's a little more on the side of a true twin than the other two here, the Resurgence all the way over there and the 1LF in the middle. But it still has a little setback on board, but feels really centered, really stable underfoot, mainly because of that camber profile. You have the same camber on all three of these boards that kind of ends right at about the bindings. So it's not a lot of camber. What that does do is make it very forgiving, very easy to skid a turn, but it's still one foot's really well off the chair and tracks really well on a flat cat track or a long flat run you might have to go down. It's going to track and hold really well and feel consistent in all conditions, from everything from hard snow to powder. When it comes to flex, this is the stiffest of the three, and you can see it's got a really stiff right between the feet here. Then it kind of softens up a touch in the tip and tail, but it is really stiff. I think they call it an 8 out of 10, and that feels right. They call this a 7 out of 10, the one mag. And you can see here, it's pretty stiff between the feet, but just a touch softer and a little more mellow in the tip and tail than the Revenant. Compare that to the Resurgence here, and you've got a moderate amount more of flex right here between the feet. It's still pretty stiff, but it feels a good bit softer in the nose and tail. So what this does is it makes it pretty easy to butter, much easier to butter on snow than you would think for the flex. I think it's just because of all that early rise after about the center of the inserts on each side. It really just makes it easy to butter and easy to play around with, much easier than you would think for the flex. So in terms of pop and ollie power, all three of these boards really don't have a lot of pop going on in comparison to some of their peers. I just felt like the Juggernaut and the Jibsaw were much more ollie friendly, and so was the Mountain Twin and the Yes Basic Unink. They all popped harder than these. But are they the worst out there? No, but they need a little more work to get these to get some air. When it comes to speed, this is pretty fast and stable, and I would say it's almost there with the 1LF and a little more than the Resurgence, but all three are really close. It's really hard to say like which was the most chatter-free. I would say I personally felt the 1LF, even though it was softer. It has that light frame, basically urethane inside the core, and it really dampens up the ride. I think that's the most damp, even though it wasn't as stiff. Then I felt like this and the Resurgence were pretty close. I would give it to the Revenant, but they all did a pretty good job with moderate mountain speed. And when it comes to uneven terrain, all three did really well. I think I liked the softer Flexine, Revenant, and Resurgence in messy, kind of uneven, micro bumpy snow a little better, but this was no slouch, and all three of them have a non-fatiguing all-day ride that works really well if you're one of those guys who's just first to last chair and you're riding all kinds of messy snow late afternoon. All of these will work for you, and so will the Revenant. Now, when it comes to edge hold, the Revenant has really strong grip, more so than the 1LF, but about the same as the Resurgence. The 1LF has 5S technology just like these, which is 5 bumps throughout the side cut, but the 1LF is very mellow except for in the middle, and that's actually the edge hold I prefer in the conditions that I ride here at Mount Bachelor. Doesn't get very hard that often or icy, so I like that better, and it's still really competent in hard to icy snow. If you ride every day in hard to icy snow and rarely see those soft snow powder days, I'd probably pick the Revenant because it has more grip, and so does the Resurgence though. They both have grip almost comparable to the Rossi Jibsaw, which has 7S, same size bumps, just 2 more. And I feel like it does a great job for those who want to ride in hard to icy snow. It does grab a little bit more, and it can feel a little sticky and slower edge to edge in softer snow, but it doesn't affect float. You still have the same kind of powder float, so it might be a worthwhile compromise. When it comes to turn initiation, all three of these boards were pretty quick, and I felt like all three of these boards just kind of lacked in terms of drive and pop out of each turn. They didn't really have a lively, energetic turning experience. They were quick edge to edge, and they could do all kinds of turns, everything from like a moderate circle carve to a moderate high speed, long drawn out S turn. They could do it all pretty well. I felt like this was the most between the feet out of all three of them, but just by a little bit. You have three basically all mountain boards. All three of them have that camber that kind of ends right here. I wish they played around like they did with the Juggernaut and the Jibsaw. The Juggernaut had a lot of camber. The Jibsaw has a little more camber than this, but not as much as the Juggernaut. And I thought that was really cool to have that difference there. I wish they'd do it here so you have one playful mountain freestyle buttery ride. You have one drivey kind of fun turning, hard carving ride for people more like me, but not full on camber, so it's totally unforgiving. And then something maybe in the middle. I thought playing around with all three types would be great because I really like turning on the XV a lot more than these, and turning on the Jibsaw and Juggernaut a lot more than all these. But hey, is it fun to lay out a carve? It's okay. It just doesn't have a lot of resistance and not a lot of spring out of the turn. When it comes to powder, this is the one you want if you want some directional float, but you're kind of starting to work towards landing switch, riding switch. This is going to be the better of the three. It is not going to be the best. It's not like their description in terms of being the most surfy of the three. I would give that to the Resurgence and the 1LF because they have more setback on board. This only goes 1.5 inches from center of board back, where both of these are 2.125 back from center of board. And when I think surfy, I think being closer to the tail. The more you get towards the tail, the more surfy a snowboard feels. And this feels the most centered and the best for that. It reminds me of the old Rossi Angus that did kind of the same thing. It wasn't as much fun in powder as the Taipan at the time or the 1LF. And I think this is kind of like the evolution of the Angus. Did I get it in powder? No, but I got the Angus in powder, deep powder years ago, and I got the 1LF in powder a long time ago, and I got the Templar and the Taipan in a lot of powder back in the day as well. So when it comes to switch riding, this was my favorite of the three, but only by just a little bit. All three of them did really well. And all three rode the pipe really well. I like the 1LF just kind of the best in the pipe. I like the 1LF the best out of all these, but I thought this did really well in the pipe too. And this really had some strong points. I kind of think the Resurgence was a little bit of my second favorite, but there were a lot of qualities of the Revenant that I liked more than the Resurgence, and vice versa. They both were just a close second maybe to the 1LF, but that was definitely my favorite. And that just kind of shows like where this stands. It's more of that between the foot kind of rider, kind of more mountain freestyle. And let's say you're looking at the Jigsaw and the Juggernaut, but you want more of a buttery, less camber-filled ride, this could be your call. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.